because Luka Doncic and Cade Cunningham, they're now eligible for MVP and All-NBA teams after their extraordinary circumstances challenge of the 65-game rule. It was approved by both the NBA and the Players Association earlier today. And we know what Luka thinks about this because he tweeted a lengthy statement. It says, "I am grateful to both the Players Association for advocating on my behalf and to the NBA for their fair decision. It was also important to me to be present for the birth of my daughter in December, and I appreciate Mark, Jeannie, Rob, JJ, and the entire Lakers organization for fully supporting me and allowing me to travel to be there. This season has been so special to me because of what my teammates and I have been able to accomplish, and I am honored to have the opportunity to be considered for the league's end-of-season awards." All right, our Shams Charania is here with much more on this. How did the league, Shams, come to the decision that they were going to grant these exceptions for both Cade and Luka here?
Look, this is a first for the NBA in terms of granting players the extraordinary circumstances challenge provision in this. And so the league and the players union essentially agreed that both Luka Doncic and Cade Cunningham had circumstances that rose to the level of them being able to now be eligible for all NBA team and MVPs. In Luka Doncic's case, he missed 2 games in December with the birth of his daughter in Slovenia. In Cade Cunningham's case, he suffered a collapsed lung in mid-March. Luka Doncic played 64 games.
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham was eligible for 63. The argument for Cade Cunningham was this was a non-basketball related injury. I'm told that's what the players union argued with the NBA. But essentially how this goes is the NBPA filed this petition, this challenge on Monday. That gets taken to the NBA. The NBA can either say yay or nay. The NBA was in agreement on both of them. But where the issue lies is when there's not that yay, and that's when it gets taken to an arbitration and an independent hearing. And that's exactly what happened with Anthony Edwards. The petition was filed, that got advanced to a hearing, but in that hearing, he was actually denied. Anthony Edwards argued that he had a staph infection, I'm told, in December. And could that be a non-basketball related injury? Could it be? That's what the argument was, but his did not rise to the level of being granted this exception. And his business manager gave me a statement today. Justin Holland told me in part essentially that while they agree with, and feel happy that the NBPA really advocated for him, as we see right there, Justin Holland tells me, for me personally, I'm a bit confused at the clemency for Cade, who missed time for something that happened on the court, and not Ant, who missed time for an infection. But ultimately, you already know Ant isn't tripping over it at all. He's more concerned about trying to play as many games as he can. And then in the playoffs, obviously try to win the championship.
You love when tripping is inserted into a statement there, Tim. It is a little bit interesting where the league and the Players Association and this independent arbitration end up drawing the line here. I wonder, does this become a slippery slope?
It absolutely does. It is not the 65-game rule anymore. It's the 65-ish game rule. But look, this is fair for Luka. It is fair for Cade. The intent, these are not load management cases. The intent of the rule is to eliminate load management, or at least minimize load management. But I understand Ant's point of view. It's like, hold on.
What about me?
Like, Cade was hurt diving for a loose ball. It's a rare injury, but it happened on a basketball court. How is it not a basketball-related injury? So I think the league and the PA need to get together and really look at maybe some standard exceptions. And again, I suggest there's a certain minutes limit that if you hit that and you have a significant injury, then there can be an exception that's just kind of standard and doesn't have to be appealed.
Let's get a player's perspective on this. I want to bring in Iman Shumpert into this conversation. Iman, hearing about who was granted this exception, who wasn't, and then also the fallout for the players who maybe would have made all-team and all-NBA team and now maybe on the fringe of that. What do you think of this?
Yeah, well, that's what Tim was just relaying. Now it's an ish rule. It's not a rule anymore. It is now ish, and it sucks because I do understand how Luka was able to get in there still and how Cade was able to get in there still. But now it does leave guys like an Anthony Edwards, and there's going to be a string of other guys that feel like this is a little bit unfair because their stuff was off the court, or their stuff should be respected the same way for a different situation. I know how I am about a rule. I am happy about it that Cade Cunningham and Luka got in there, but I do expect to see a lot more appeals with years to come. So they really do need to nip this in the bud. If it's a minutes thing, get the minutes thing done. If it's a thing that we have to, fine line it and say these are the exceptions. If you can make this, then we need to get it there. But there needs to be a clear-cut rule. Otherwise, we're going to be appealing this at the end of every year.
And Shump's a player. Malika, I don't want to make this about the money. Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham are not going to be impacted whether they make All-NBA or not in terms of their supermax and their max-level contracts that they have. But Anthony Edwards is eligible for a 4-year, $300 million supermax extension in 2027 offseason.
Sure.
But he needs to make an All-NBA team either this year or next season. This year, obviously, out of the equation. So he has to make that All-NBA team next year now in order to get that 4 years, $300 million.
Right, not to mention the guys like maybe a Denny Avdia or a Jalen Duren, Cade's teammate, who's right in the conversation of should they make an All-NBA team. And now there are more players that are now in that pool. I for one, though, I'm glad the regular season awards, they are sorted because we're fully in the postseason, guys. We got action last night. Steph Curry, the Warriors, they really turned back the clock. This was a vintage performance that we saw against the Clippers. And Steph, Tim, had a little bit of a slow start. He only had 8 points, 2 of 9 shooting in that first half. He turned it way up here in the third. The handoff from Draymond, this is what he does. And he's counting them 1, 2, 3, 4. You know that the swagger is coming out now. And then a few minutes later here, Curry, he uses the screen.
Look where he pulled up from. And it looks easy.
They call that Curry range. Ooh, gets John Collins on an island. Uh-oh.
Adam dancing.
Poured in 16 points in the third. The rest of the Warriors, they only had 14. Golden State still go down by 6 heading into the fourth quarter. And that set up for Al Horford time. I asked afterwards, did he eat your Wheaties? Because it sure looked like it. Al Horford in year 19. He wasn't on in the first 3 quarters. Yes, he was in the final frame. Less than a minute later here, the ball moving. This is the way we know Golden State to be. Al Horford relocates to the opposite corner, nails the 3. And then just over a minute to play, Golden State within 1. Horford, you can't leave that man alone. The Warriors take their first lead since the second quarter, thanks to Al Horford. Under a minute left here. It's all tied up at 117. Curry gets a handoff from Draymond Green. Oh, no. Hits the contested 3 over Brook Lopez. Another look at this. Steph Curry with the pass, and then he gets it back, hits the 3. He has a fan ask if it went in. Did it go in? Go in? Oh, yeah. Curry's fired up after that one. And that brings a big smile to Jimmy Butler's face right there. 50 seconds left here. Clippers down 3. Draymond Green with the steal. He was fantastic defensively in this game. Brandon Podziemski takes it the other way. Fouled. The bucket. It counts because of goaltending. Draymond Green, that defense, so key for Golden State. And then Mathurin with the goaltending goal. So the Warriors starting to feel it here. Next possession, this is more from Green, Tim. Leonard looks to drive, but Draymond pokes it the other way. Seals it for the Warriors. Green held Kawhi to just 1 of 6 shooting on the night. Here he was on his mindset defensively.
For me, I wanted to try to limit the amount of shots that he could get as opposed to thinking I'm going to stop every shot that he takes. That's not realistic. With the efficiency that he plays with, that's stopping 10 more points. If I can get him to take 3 or 4 less shots.
Defensive masterclass from Draymond Green. And the Warriors hit the win 126-121. And that's after Golden State trailed by 13 with just under 10 minutes left. And then they went on to outscore the Clippers 41-23 the rest of the way. They made 8 of 10 threes in that span. That's like the Splash Brothers, right? They didn't commit a turnover, maybe more importantly, in that frame as well. So let's take a listen to Steph Curry, Steve Kerr. Pretty excited after this one.
This is why Steph came back. So everybody out there who thought Steph should have taken the rest of the year off, this is what he does. This is who he is.
We're not guaranteed a series yet, but these nights make everything worth it because you feel the anxiety of having to perform when the lights are bright, do or die game. Like I said, the last 2 days of preparation, trying to get our game plan right, got us really locked in on the moment. So considering how our season has gone and all the injuries and all that, for us to play the way we did tonight was special. I know we're not satisfied. We want to go to Phoenix and guarantee, a playoff series against OKC. That's the next goal. But for us to lock in on just 48 minutes, figure it out, however we can, get a win, knowing that the game was not going to be perfect, we were all pretty committed to that.
For one night, we're us. We're champions again.
So, Shams, we were in the building for this one. This was the happiest that I have seen Steve Kerr in quite some time. For one night, we are champions again. I mean, he was elated. Yeah, Steph Curry went over that minute limit. He played 36. That's his most since he returned to the Warriors lineup. And, Shump, I know you've had the experience of Steph Curry postseason firsthand, but you told our producers that the Clippers, they made a strategic error, you thought, defending him. What did you see there?
Yeah, and especially me getting the chance to play under T. Lue. I watched a ton of film with knowing that Steph Curry is just nursing that right knee. To see him go left as much as he did was actually concerning if I'm looking at it from a standpoint of what the Clippers were doing in their game plan defensively against him. They didn't force his right leg to be his brakes. If you notice, everything he shot, he fell and made sure that most of his balance relied on his left leg. And I just expected them to make him shoot from the right side of the floor where he would have to load and then as well as use the brakes on that right leg just to make sure that they have any type of chance and make sure that, you know, the release is not going to be as quick because he would have to make sure he corrals, get his balance, and make sure it's a good shot every time. It was concerning to me. Everything that he did was going left. He was putting on the brakes to do a quick step back. It wasn't one of those hard step backs. It's like a quick side step to a step back. And I just thought that I would see more forcing him downhill to have to explode going left and then cutting that step off, cutting the step back off and then getting him to the right side of the floor if he is going to raise for jump shots to make sure that that right foot has to hit last and that he has that balance.
You know who's keying in on that? Phoenix right now is listening to Iman Shumpert and saying, oh, okay, let me just make sure we take some notes on that,
Dylan
right?
Brooks just like this.
Dylan Brooks is saying, yep, okay, understood the assignment right here for their next play-in game. But it wasn't just Steph, right? Steph was a huge part of being able to close this one out. But Draymond's defense on Kawhi Leonard, Kawhi even had high praise for him, called him a Hall of Famer. This is why he's a Hall of Famer after the game.
Yeah, these were the two pillars of the Warriors dynasty, giving us a glimpse of that greatness, reminding us of why they're going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. And I don't know, has there been a better defensive quarter played by anybody this season? I'm sure Wemby has a case, but as Kawhi said, it was hard to even get a shot up. I mean, Draymond just draping him all over the floor. Certainly one of the most versatile, dominant defenders that we've ever seen. This is a guy who can anchor a defense and who can say, hey, I'm taking the challenge of an elite scorer on ball. He's not going to be able to get shots up and then coming up with the two huge steals down the stretch when the Warriors needed those stops the most.
And he was a little under the weather, right, Chums?
Yeah, vintage Draymond Green.
Right.
This was a defensive masterclass. But to me, what was even more impressive was team sources told me Draymond Green was sick. He was throwing up, puking all over the place in pregame. Sideline, in the back area by the locker room. And you could tell as the game was starting, his energy level looked a little low. But darn, that fourth quarter, especially those final 6 to 8 minutes of the game, I think he guarded, here's a stat from our ESPN Stats and Info group. He guarded Kawhi Leonard on 12 possessions in the fourth quarter. Not only did Kawhi Leonard not score, he didn't even get a shot off. And so you think about vintage Draymond Green, what he's known for. I mean, you have to give him his flowers. He was dominant. As dominant as we've seen him all season.
He certainly was, and the Golden State Warriors, this wasn't a championship, but this was the Golden State that we have grown accustomed to, maybe holding their AARP cards, but they still got it done, right? And then that turned into, what do we have a saying on the show? You stay petty so you don't got to get petty. Chris Paul, he lived up to that, because he posted this moments after the Clippers lost that play-in game. Amon, just too much or just enough?
I think it's just enough, man. I like petty. I like petty. This is best for the storyline. I saw that picture right before we started this. I got my shades on.
It gave me a chuckle. I actually texted him. I was like, come on, man. This is too good. All right, though, the playoffs, they're almost here. Last season ended in disappointment for the Cavs, but the stakes, they may be even higher this year. Hear from Donovan. And we also have our exclusive conversation with Victor Wembanyama. He reveals the piece of advice Hakeem gave him that he's applying this postseason. Plus, this season has been anything but magical for Orlando. Was in town, but it was Tyrese Maxey who was bringing the magic here. We're going to pick this one up with under 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Maxey steps back, drains that three, and then a minute later, Maxey, faking out Jalen Suggs up top, driving to the basket. Tough move there by Maxey, Tim.
He's got some jets.
Suggs swings it to Desmond Bane, knocks down the three. That's why they brought him in. Bane had a game-high 35 points in this one. 35? Sure, we'll go with that. Under 4 minutes left in the fourth. Maxey drives into the lane, banks the tough layup. He's just taken over in this frame, Tim. Suggs pushing the floor, but there's Maxey on the block. Maxey doing everything in this one. Let's take one more look at that.
One of the most athletic guards in the league, and he can shoot it from 30.
VJ Edgecombe had it, though, if he didn't, right? And then Andre Drummond in the corner. He had a couple of those. The Sixers go on to clinch the 7th seed. They get the win. But let's take a listen to Paolo Banchero because they got one more chance.
Yeah, they're been playing really well. You know, they've kicked our ass this year. So we got to be ready. I got to be ready. And, you know, we have to be locked in from the jump. You know, I thought we played hard tonight, but it wasn't enough. And so it's going to take, you know, even more of an effort. And it's going to take, you know, me playing better as well, you know, for us to get the win. So it's definitely a big game on Friday.
All right, well, here are the stats behind that statement from Paolo Banchero on their next matchup with the Hornets. Charlotte, they took 3 of 4 from the Magic this season during the regular season. All 4 games, they were decided by 15 or more points. Orlando's lone win, that was all the way back in October. So that game is tomorrow for a chance at the Pistons, and the final playoff spot is on the line. Orlando, they had such high hopes, though, I think, coming into the season. They had such high expectations. Amon, what do you think has gone wrong for them?
Well, with Orlando, I think that they just lack accountability. When you look at them, you see them throughout the game have those moments where it's like somebody huddle these guys together and get everybody on the same page. There's just a lot of times that they're all seem like they have different agendas going. And especially in a game like this where you're playing against a Paul George, a Tyrese Maxey, Andre Drummond, guys with playoff experience, period. They know how to key in. They know how to make big plays. They know how to make things happen. I felt like the Sixers were just a more together team. More swing passes, more kickouts, more in-and-out threes, as opposed to, you know, dribble, solo drives, ISOs on the wing. It just seemed like everything didn't go the way that it was supposed to go for the Magic, and I don't want to have to see Desmond Bane have to bail them out. For that third and a little bit of that fourth quarter, it just seemed like Desmond Bane didn't feel like losing. But if I see my friend or my brothers over there getting jumped when he get off the bus, I'm going to come over there and at least huddle up to get a plan together, man. He's fighting everybody with one hand behind his back.
Yeah, I mean, they brought him in to be the bucket getter down the stretch, but certainly not the only one. And I don't want to turn this into a posthumous conversation about Orlando because they still got another shot, right? They do have one more shot to get into the postseason here. But it does, the tenor around the league, it feels like the conversation is Jamal Mosley may be coaching for his job here.
And Charlotte's a nice little layover for them on a trip to Cancun, right? And there's nothing magical about this Orlando season. This has been miserable. Let's just be honest. And Paolo Banchero and Jamal Mosley, they haven't been on the same page. They've been headbutting. That's been well known. They've done it in press conferences at times this year. And there's certainly a wide expectation around the league that Jamal Mosley is in serious jeopardy of losing his job. I will say this, if that does happen, he will be a candidate for at least one other job immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm also just going to point out that Paolo Banchero has yet to prove in this league that he can drive winning. He said it himself. He's got to play much better because that was a terrible performance by a max salary face the franchise.
Well, and they're going to have another shot. Go ahead, Chubb.
If I could add this. For Paolo, the biggest problem with what I saw from him down the stretch, he did not seem concerned with making sure he got the ball and made things happen. At the end of a game, you start to see the guy that most of the responsibility falls on their shoulders. Whether they had a good game or not is irrelevant once it becomes time for winning and it comes time for crunch time. They figure out a way to get involved in the game no matter how they have to do it, and they make sure they put their team as well as their self in successful positions to where at the very least they're shooting free throws to keep their team in it. And I just think he strayed away from that. Is he a bad player? No. Do we expect a whole lot from you? Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's why I don't know, regardless of what happens tomorrow against the Hornets, and regardless of their coaching, if they decide to make a change, the Orlando Magic are going to have different conversations about what else they'll need to do up and down the roster. But again, that's a conversation for a little bit later. We get a Sixers-Boston Celtics series. That we know for sure. What we don't know is whether or not we're going to see Joel Embiid in that series. What do you know here, Shams?
Look, my understanding is the Sixers are preparing for battle against the Celtics without Joel Embiid, at least to start the series. He's only a week-ish removed from surgery for that appendicitis.
Yeah.
And so he's very much in the recovery phase of this. Once you recover, then you have to have a separate rehab part of the process as well. And so this is a serious issue that Joel Embiid had a week ago. He's still trying to recover. Good news for the Sixers, though. He was with the team last night at the arena, at the game, for the first time since the surgery.
Okay, so that's good. He's up, he's moving. It's just so unlucky having to deal with getting your appendix taken out on top of all the injuries that he's had. But I cannot wait. Weekend, and Victor Wembanyama, we get to see him in the postseason for the very first time in his career. And in just his third year, he's put up averages, 25 points, 11 rebounds, over 3 blocks a game. Those numbers we haven't seen since prime Shaquille O'Neal in 2000. Now, Shaq's postseason play, of course, it's legendary. 3 titles with the Lakers. He's got 1 with Miami. But his first shot at the playoffs, that was with the Orlando Magic team that got swept in round 1 by the 5-seed Indiana Pacers. And Victor, he will play his first postseason game this weekend against the Blazers. And we're going to see how he can carry the Spurs, how far they can go. But it was actually another Hall of Fame center that gave him one key piece of advice. He said, don't wait.
Our eyes have never seen anything at the level that we're seeing it with Victor Wembanyama.
Wemby shakes, takes, and slams.
The mindset is the most important thing, in my opinion.
We're seeing his off-season work translate directly to his game.
You had a heck of a summer, and I want to get a little bit more into it. You trained with the one and only Hakeem Olajuwon over the summer. Can you tell me how you two met and how that came to be?
So we met at the finals of NCAA, so the Final Four. Right away, he was very friendly, and he told me right away that he wanted to share what he had, what he knew, all the footwork stuff, things that look easy but aren't, but he makes them easier, and just some advice that comes with experience, and nothing can replace experience.
The scariest sight in the entire NBA is the fact that Victor Wembanyama has embraced the postgame.
What was the best piece of advice that he told you?
Maybe it was actually advice, but it really stuck with me that you don't need to wait to win, like you can do it right away. If you're that good, you're going to make your team win regardless.
The one thing the Spurs has done a great job, they got home court advantage all the way up to the conference finals.
Any piece of motivation that you could find, you take and you put it into your arsenal for the future. And that leads you to training with monks in China. How did you come up with that idea?
I was just thinking, I'm not able to do these things physically right now. So my body still has some areas to fill and some areas to develop. It's been very important for me to develop my body into what it can be and fulfill the potential as much as possible.
Walk me through getting there, what it looked, just paint a picture for me.
Incredible scenery. The temple, of course, obviously the traditional millennium-old buildings just at the bottom of the mountain in the forest. We meet a few monks. They're very social and they have phones and stuff. We were interesting. Let's see how it goes, but I'm not sure it is where I want to spend these next weeks in my summer because it's an important summer. They go to show us a demonstration, a show of what they do of Kung Fu. 30 seconds in, we were convinced. All the doubts we might have had before, long gone. I get extremely jealous and I'm like, I want to be able to do it at the end of these 12 days or whatever. We see the gym where we would practice. It was serious and total dive into the culture and the traditions and the practice of Kung Fu.
I was particularly curious about the meditation piece of all of it, but what were your biggest takeaways from that?
Some things I did over there overloaded certain muscles in my body that were not used to these kind of efforts. And I think it made them stronger. I think it made them more resilient. I've never thrown any kick in my life before. And all of a sudden I'm throwing hundreds a day. So it has an impact on the body. And there were some days where I was extremely sore, but I think it was beneficial.
Victor Wembanyama is absolutely the most dominant player in the NBA.
What's next on the bucket list?
There's some more things. One thing I wanted to do, but I didn't do this summer, is practice with a rugby team, because it's same, patterns of movement my body's not used to do, and that can translate to what I do basketball. It's some very interesting things.
What are the principles? So it's not just the playing rugby or the going to the Shaolin Temple. What is the principle that you next want to hone in and work on?
But it's definitely a question for the off season, and I always err on the side of choosing maybe slightly too many things to work on, too many projects, on and off the court.
If you say to me, can Victor Wembanyama do X? My answer almost always is going to be yes.
And it should almost always be yes, because that's who Victor Wembanyama has proven to be. I do want to go back to that line, though. He said that Hakeem told him. He said, you don't need to wait to win. You don't need to wait to win. Amon, do you think that that's true for Victor and the Spurs?
I think anything that you can get from Hakeem the Dream is money. You know what I mean? But I really do, though. It's something that, I don't want to say it because as a student of the game, the history says nobody this young can do it, especially not a young team overall. And when I look at their roster, I'm forced to, have to be real about it. They actually do have some things that I think cancel out. I think the playoff jitters that come, they still have a great defensive backcourt. I think that their backcourt is underrated in all the things that they do to pressure the other side. I think that every time you play them, you have to deal with a tremendous amount of pressure of them getting downhill because they have a Victor Wembanyama. They know that they can get to the basket, and just in case they draw two, they can just throw it up there to the rim. It just puts your defense under so much pressure. I think that they are going to walk through a lot of the Western Conference, but it'll be nice to see when they have to match up with OKC.
I feel bad for Donovan Clingan. I do. This kid is a really good young big in the league. It's also his first taste of the playoffs. And he comes in with a resume. He won a championship at UConn alongside Stephon Castle.
Yep.
He's got to deal with this, though, his first time in the NBA playoffs. And the one thing you absolutely know, no question about Victor Wembanyama, he loves the bright lights. He loves the stage. He's not going to be intimidated by him. He's played in a gold medal game in Paris against Team USA and put on a show. And, man, no big is suited to guard Wemby. If he hits a three, knocks down a three or two early, forget about it. Because you think Clingan's ever had to close out to a guy 28 feet from the hoop who can pump fake and put it on the floor like that? It's not a fair fight.
And the way that he goes to work on these sorts of things is so interesting. Go ahead, Shams.
Yeah, and you have full throttle Victor Wembanyama potentially in the postseason, because in season, he didn't even hit fully 40 minutes in a game.
Yeah.
He averaged under 30 minutes over the course of the season. And that was all my understanding is, and you talk to people in San Antonio, is they always are long-term health of their player. And we know he missed time with an injury in December, several weeks. And so making sure he's right for this moment, and he's eligible for all the awards. So that's not the question. Now it's just, this is the time he wants to compete for a championship.
And the question is, again, it comes down to how much experience do you need before you have the experience? It was what we were asking about Oklahoma City last year. Of course, it's a little bit more acute for San Antonio, who their starters have a collective 7 games of postseason experience, and they all belong to De'Aaron Fox and that 7-game series against Golden State. It's been 50 years since a team's leading scorer led their team to a championship in their first postseason. So that is what Victor Wembanyama, that's the task that he is hoping. The conference finals in any of the previous 3, they still have never made the finals without LeBron on their roster here. And James Harden, he's made the playoffs all 17 seasons of his career. He has the second most playoff points without a title. He trails only Karl Malone and 14th most overall here. But their team leader is Donovan Mitchell, and Don has never missed the playoffs in his entire career either, but he's still seeking that first conference finals appearance as he gets set for his 9th playoff run. Here's Donovan Mitchell in his own words for Anscape.
The playoff game is just like war. Like it's every little detail matters. Every possession, every three, every layup, every free throw, every turnover, the crowd. Like, it's just one of those things where it takes a lot out of you. It takes everything out of you just to play one. up, y'all? I'm Donovan Mitchell. This is My Diary on ESPN and Skate. With Toronto, they've been chomping at the bit since the beginning of the season. A lot of talent. The move of Brandon Ingram, who's obviously played in big games, Scotty Barnes, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Jakob Poeltl. Got young fellas over there who are really good. They got a good coach, so that crowd is loud, and it'll definitely be an intense playoff series. We're definitely the names that come up. Us two, probably Joel, and we're different, right? He's 17 years and I'm 9. Does a ring change the conversation around his name? Yeah. Should it change? No, I think he should still be looked at as one of the top players, ever played this game. But we live in a ring culture. So does a ring change the narrative on him? Sure. Does it change the narrative on me? For sure. I don't think that defines him or who he is or his greatness. But I do think it's something that, will give the both of us, I think, quite frankly, something that, we've been longing for in a championship.
Donovan Mitchell leaving a stamp.
Right now, wedding stuff is not to the side. Right now, we're still going, but she understands that when the playoffs come, it won't be as intense. But I'm still waiting on certain people's responses back. And a certain individual who made a big fuss all over the internet.
Where is my invite? Where is my invite?
I'm glad
do not make me raise my voice.
I'm glad you brought this in front of the camera.
What?
You and Jalen Brunson didn't respond to the message.
Still hasn't responded to our wedding invitation. So Jaylen Brown, if you've seen this, please get your response in. I've called you twice to 3 times. I'm waiting. The championship aspiration that I have, that we have, there's always going to be pressure. There's always going to be that, yeah, I've made out the second round and whatever, right? Like that's the thing. But I think for us as a team, we haven't made it past second round as well, right? And we make the moves we make to try to get farther. We have the talent, now it's on us to go out there and do it. But ultimately the pressure, especially the outside noise, man, it's just noise.
Well, we know the RSVPs are very, very important, so he's got to get those in. But the Raptors and Cavs, they have a really intriguing first-round matchup. We just heard from Donovan Mitchell. I appreciate his honesty here and talking about how intense that series is going to be. What do you think is at stake, Aman? You've played for the Cavaliers for both Don and Cleveland this postseason.
Yeah. Okay, listen. It's not so much about the Cavs.
It's going to be good when he says, okay, listen.
It's not so much about the Cavs as it is for the story of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. I think that the biggest reason people put their eyes on Donovan Mitchell and put their eyes on James Harden is because they are very deserving of going further along in the playoffs than they've gotten a chance to show. The biggest thing that I'm looking at is the fourth quarter for these guys. Historically speaking, Donovan Mitchell, down the stretch hasn't gotten a chance to put his team over the hump. They brought along a James Harden now, where you're now expecting James Harden to say, hey, this time when we get to the fourth quarter, this time it will be more FGAs than turnovers. This time, if the ref doesn't give me the whistle, it doesn't mean I'm not going to pull the trigger. I'm still going to be James Harden. I'm still going to be aggressive, and I'm still going to lead my team past that finish line.
Yeah, and it feels like if they can't get to a conference finals, there could be some significant changes in Cleveland. But, Donovan said it shouldn't change the narrative for James Harden. I'm not sure that I agree with that. James Harden is a Hall of Famer, and the but is that he has a history of playoff flameouts. And so if he can co-pilot a team on a deep playoff run, maybe a championship run, maybe just conference finals, that does change the narrative, because right now when you think of James Harden in playoffs, you think of the failures.
Well, I think right now, listening to that from Donovan Mitchell, it just it reminded me that they are acutely aware. We don't need to say it up here for them to know the things that are missing on their resume. And this, for Cleveland, who was the one team that was already in that postseason conversation to make that all-in move at the trade deadline, it says that they knew that about them as well. Raptors, Cavs, they tip off the playoffs, but it begins this Saturday with Kevin Durant and the Rockets taking on